Well, Jill Lagan, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I was anxious to learn more about you and a little bit more about the chamber and
Very
what you
good.
guys are up to. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for asking. I rarely have few words to say, and I've got lots of great things to say about the chamber. So,
Well, good. Well, first, to learn a little bit more about you, where were you raised?
born and raised right here in Boulder City. My family's been here since 1947.
What brought them here? 47.
Yeah.
So that was, they were still working on the power plants.
Yes, my granddaddy actually came here, and my grandfather. My grandfather was with the Bureau of Mines, and my granddaddy came with the Coast Guard and doing some preliminary programs. And so, yeah, he actually was one of the first hard hat divers on Lake Mead.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I still have his hard hat.
So, growing up here, did you always think, I just want to stay and spend the rest of my life in Boulder City?
Heck no. So I graduated in 1987, and very excited to be one of 3 generations here in Boulder City that graduated from high school. And so when that senior year, you just can't wait to get out. You just cannot wait for graduation day, and literally the day you graduate, you're out of here, right? And so that was pretty much how it worked, and headed to BYU after that. Was grateful to kind of be on my own, but as soon, of course, as the kids come and your family starts, I couldn't wait to get back. So that generally seems to be the way that it works when you want to get out of a community that you think is just trapping you, and then you realize, oh my gosh, that was such an amazing community. And so I was so grateful to be able to come back, because it's not easy. You know,
Yeah.
starter homes are not easy to find in Boulder.
So, how did it go for you? What did you graduate in?
Actually, so I left BYU, came
Okay.
home to get married. That didn't work out.
Oh, okay.
Ended up at Phillips Junior College, and as a court reporter.
Where
So-
is Phillips Jr.?
It was then on Sand Hill and Flamingo. But
Oh,
it's
so
no
here in
longer there.
town.
It was in Vegas, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that brought you back. You stayed here, and so you started as a court reporter. Is that your first?
I went to school for that. I didn't end up actually using that. I went into the locate specialist at the DA's office in family support. And so as I was at family support, I got to know one of the caseworkers, and she was handling some paternity cases, and I was serving a lot of her cases as the process server. And so in the process of doing that, I got to meet her daughter, and we hung out for quite a while, and then I met Barry. And
Very
that's how it all
nice.
fell into place.
So at that time, were you in Boulder City and just commuting into town?
No, I had an apartment in Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, I had just bought a townhouse just before Barry and I got married, so I was in the middle of transitioning into it, waiting for it to be finished, and then we kind of let that one go, and I ended up with another one.
Very nice.
Yeah,
So
it
when
was-
did you officially move back into Boulder?
So not until Alexis was born. So after our first child was born, we moved back here
Very, very nice.
into my grandparents' home. So my grandparents and I grew up right next door to them on King's Place, and so I moved into their home, and so we got to raise our kids right next to my mom and dad.
Oh.
So it was pretty awesome. At that point, mom and dad had gotten divorced, and so it was just mom, and now we had a great time. I knocked a hole in the wall between the 2 houses so that my kids could go back and forth, and I wouldn't have to worry about them out on the street. So yeah.
Very good. So when did you start getting involved with the Chamber of Commerce? How
So-
did that all relationship
Yeah,
start?
you know, it was kind of an odd thing. So my father had always owned his own companies. He had a coffee roasting plant at the time, and I was working there. And
Was it here in town?
no, it was in Henderson.
Okay.
It's called Sweeney's Gourmet Coffee. And he had sold Overton Beach Resort, and then had purchased this coffee roasting plant. And I had worked for him at the resort as well. I had actually had a jet ski rental company out of his resort. And it was the first, it was kind of a prototype program. It was the first opportunity for jet skis to be operated out of the concessionaire. And so that was kind of an exciting thing for us, and it blossomed, it worked obviously, and now they all have them or have the ability to get them. And so that was really my first, previous to that company, I had started t-shirt sales. When my father owned Black Canyon River Adventures, I sold all of the souvenirs. So I had little river rat pins, and so for the first person that saw a bighorn sheep on the river, they got a little river rat pin. And so those became collector's items, and I sold t-shirts and hats and things like that. And so that was literally my first business. I was 16 at the time. And so building on that, that went into working there at the resort. And then I had a joint venture with Wendy Hess.
Oh, okay.
So Wendy and I started a wedding and event planning business, and we did some amazing events. Absolutely loved it. We had a lot of fun. We eventually sold that and did so right about the same time that I had been approached to apply for the chamber position. They were looking for somebody who had some experience in grants or something along that line, some way of making sure that they had a connection to other either federal opportunities or the SBA. And I had a minority-owned business, and so I had that SBA female-owned number. And that was really important at the time. They needed somebody who had some idea of how to make that happen. So initially that first year I was able to put together some classes on helping some female-owned businesses get their SBA number and get started so that they had more opportunities to work some of the government contracts. So that was really what got me started and how I got involved with the chamber, and that was 17 years ago.
Okay, so quite a while ago. Since over that 17 years, so when you first applied, you started in the same position that you are now, been in it for 17 years.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Yep.
So I know you guys do a lot of events in town.
We do.
There's have most of those been around prior to you? Have you added some of those events?
So some are new. So the Spring Jamboree, this is actually the 41st year. So that has been around for a long time. That was started, they realized that they needed to do some type of an activity, and they wanted to incorporate the businesses and meet the mission of the chamber. So they started off with sidewalk sales. The businesses all had little events out in the front, and then that turned into other businesses wanting to be in the same area. So then they would put up their little table next to another business, and that led to closing off a little bit of the street, which led to moving to, it had a long history. So now we're in the park, and we'll have over 250 booths this year. We have a rock and gem show, we have the car show, all the arts and crafts, the antiques in the park, as well as all the entertainment on the stage, the kids zone, all the food zone. I mean, it's just really grown from those simple sidewalk sales. And several years ago, we went back to encouraging the businesses, go back to your sidewalk sale. We've got people driving through town. This is the perfect opportunity for you to capitalize on that. And so we're kind of combined the old and the new. And it's very successful. So we would never abandon things like that, because truly our mission is to drive traffic into those businesses, and these larger events are exactly what does that. So, but the dichotomy of that would be something new, which is like the wine walks. So the wine walks were started, and actually it was an idea of one of our volunteers who no longer lives here in Boulder, but she had done it in a previous community, and she and her little crew got together, and they did a great job, and they got it started. We now have over 200 people that go into each of the businesses on that Saturday evening. It's the second Saturdays of the month, and between 4 and 8 during that time period, some of these businesses don't see 200 people in an entire month. So to see that on a Saturday night, it really gives them the opportunity to capitalize on showcasing who and what they are, and sharing with people what they may not have seen, and so previous to ever coming to Boulder City. And so this is a great opportunity. Then we throw a theme in there. It makes it fun. Everybody really enjoys it. We went a little high tech, and now you check in at each of the locations with a barcode, and you use your smartphone to do it, and then we select winners from the smartphone app. So it really has taken on a life of its own. We weren't sure exactly where it was going to go, and we started off with maybe 75 people that first time, and now we're doing it 8 times a year, and it really is driving the traffic into those businesses. Completely meets that mission and that goal of the chamber.
Oh, that's great. And on some of the larger events, say like Spring Jamboree, like how many people did we get? Do you know roughly what it was?
So I try to be really conservative, because I don't want to ever overpromise and then underdeliver. So for us, I would say you're looking at anywhere from 15 to 25,000 for the 2 days. It always depends on the weather. one of our downfalls here in Boulder City is we don't have an event center. We don't have an indoor expo hall. We don't have things that allow you to have your events come rain or shine. And so that is a little bit of a hiccup that we have, is that most of our events are all centered in the spring and the fall. And so during that hot summer and during the very cold winter, it's tough to keep that business circulation. And so our business owners tend to have that season that comes and goes and comes and goes. And it would sure be nice if we could keep that even by having an event center for some of those larger events. So hopefully that is a goal that we have identified and have wanted to work on for quite some time. But when we do have those special events and the weather is good, you can usually look to see on the high end 20,000 to 25,000 people for the 2 days. Our other major events, Dam Short Film Festival's got a huge draw now. Isn't ours, but we just help promote it. And that's where our partnership comes in with the other nonprofits and helping them make sure that they're successful. So the Barbecue Challenge, the Worst Fest, those are both Rotary events. They have such a great brand in and of themselves, but of course when weather's bad, it can really affect them.
Yeah.
And their nonprofit, what their cause that they are fighting for, they're championing for, those items, they're very important to this community. So if we don't have the funds to be able to put on the senior all-night party because Worst Fest got washed out, it's a bummer. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a domino effect, right? So it sure would be nice if we at some point in time have the ability to get to a conference space.
So on a conference space, what would be the mechanism for funding something like that? Would it be a joint venture with the city and the businesses? How have you guys looked into that at all?
We have, and I am not necessarily a huge component of, I think the city should fund everything. I really do think in this particular situation we could probably come together with some different grant sources, identify some different grant sources, maybe even some federal dollars that if we were able to get real creative we could find. I think sometimes it's even great to do a capital campaign so that you've got the buy-in from the community. This is their community center. They are the ones that are helping to put things together. Maybe each of the nonprofits, a percentage of their special event the money that they've raised that particular year, maybe a percentage is donated specifically for the building of that community center. Maybe once it's up and operational, then you're going to have to look at who manages it and how do you keep the income flow, because
Right.
obviously it's got to be
Got to maintain
right,
it,
yeah, it's
take
got
care of
to
it.
drive some revenue. And so how does that look? What does that look like? So I think it can be not only a partnership with the city and partly maybe they donate the land and then you come up with the funds to actually do the building. I don't know exactly how that looks and I'm not sure what the equation is, but I can see a little bit of a combination of everything. And I do believe that when you have joint efforts like that and collaboration like that, it really tends to mean more. You've got more community pride in it. People take better care of things. They want to see it be successful. I think that's when you're going to get, to lean on any one entity is probably not the best source of revenue, and it takes longer.
And on as a city like this, we obviously have some fairly large events that have been very successful. But what is the right size? I mean, conference centers vary so broadly, and yet you want to get those big events, but paying for that big size. Have you guys talked at all about the sizing?
So I don't know if you've ever been to Wendover to their new event center.
I have not.
Wendover just developed this amazing new conference space, and it literally is just the right size. So the community's not huge, but they'd have a draw from northern Utah, from the Salt Lake Valley area, but also all over central and even northern Nevada, and they use that as a central location. Nevada Commission on Tourism has held their Rural Roundup, which is our annual convention of all of the destination programs throughout the state. We've held that there in Wendover before. There is a draw there. It's kind of an interesting little area right there off the Salt Flats. And so that particular space, they just seem to hit the right number. It's about 450 seats in their theater area,
Okay.
and then which is a perfect area for a performance hall of some sort, if we could kind of touch on that. But then they also have an expo hall, and then they have breakout rooms. But the way they did their rooms and designed their rooms, it can also be expanded so that with the partitions and the dividers, that you can either make smaller spaces or you can make one larger space. It was just designed very, very well. as well as having some storage area, because you've got to have some places for tables and chairs to be stored.
Right.
So I think they were very thoughtful in their process, and it seems to be just about the right size. We do have a lot of larger events. I think the largest one that we would need to really look at housing and we would use as kind of a marker and a measure would be Art in the Park. Art in the Park, when at their peak, had about 450 booths. That's a lot of booths, and it was literally curb to curb, on every inch of grass that they were taking up. It's a little bit more of an average now, closer to about 300, but still 300 booths. Now, how do you get those into a conference space? That would take a little bit of some maneuvering, but I also think that knowing that that's the need we're trying to meet, you design the space for that type of a need. Instead of having a space and then try to fit everybody in it, I think you design to the need. So in this particular situation, I think Boulder City has a lot of experience in knowing what the need is, and then make it work from there.